Okay, so I'm live again. I guess you guys couldn't hear me. I'm sorry, but I'm just not really that used to going live on my iPad. Let's see if I can share this. Anyway, nobody's here yet. I'm not even sure. I'm gonna kind of play around here a little bit because I want to learn how to use this. Oh, I have someone. Okay. Okay, can you hear me okay? Because I had my headphones plugged in last time and nobody could hear me, and I feel bad about that. So, one of the reasons why I wanted to talk tonight was about the Tom Luongo interview with Crypto Rich and Susan Kokinda from Promethean Action. And that's because of some of the comments that he made about Canada. And he basically said that America is now engaged in the War of 1812 again with Canada, and that the Canadians are all loyalists, and that it's terrible, terrible that they are having to deal with us because we are loyalists to the king, according to him, and that Canada is basically, a real big problem for America. And and by the way, he's not I'm talking about Tom Luongo right now in his interview. And by the way, he's not a Q-tard, he says. Meanwhile, everything he says, half the time, he's always sort of referencing the drops and making comments as if he were, but he's claiming that he's not. Which, I don't know why all the paid professional talking heads are so afraid of being associated with Q, but they are, so that's fine. But what really bugged me about him was the way he talked about Canadians and the way that he's framing the Canadian people as if we're like some enemy of the America, and meanwhile having no respect for us and what we are having to deal with a federal government right now that is off the rails completely and has been for quite some time, and that are having kind of like a trapped government that's having to deploy all kinds of strategic ambiguity to deal with their horrific nightmare of being a middle power between the UK, the EU, the Americans, the Russians, the Chinese. This is what Ottawa has to deal with, and being the richest country in the world. Okay? And that is a fact. Underdeveloped, deliberately, probably by orders of the king, to frustrate and delay economic development with the United States. And the Canadian people have been robbed by numerous scams like carbon, climate, gender, LGBT, blah, blah, color revolution scams that have been forced on us. And we're also dealing with a government that's really not a de jure government. They're dealing under custom and consent, faking a constitution that we don't really have. Doug Forrest and the Myth is Canada totally, exposed that, and Canada the Illusion, his documentary. And so the Canadian people are trapped between these major powers who are using Ukraine as a proxy narrative to talk about Canada in front of the cameras, but really, because don't tell me that Ukraine is so important, that it's that important for Europe, and it's that important for the UK. And every day, Keir Starmer is coming out and posting images, multiple images of him, and the same with Macron from France, coming out and posting images of them hugging, kissing, You know, emergency summits. We're going to have an emergency summit about Ukraine when everybody who's got half a brain will know that there's not a freaking chance in hell that they'll ever get to have any kind of a foothold in Ukraine as long as Russia has anything to do with it. And Tom Luongo, with his bullshit narrative, Ukraine is collateral security for the EU. That guy went on and on and on, him and Alex Craner, about that, on and on. They went and talked about that. When I confronted them and said that it's not Ukraine, it's actually Canada that they're talking about, what does he do? He blocks me. And now he's saying that the Canadian people and the Americans are locked into this continuation of the War of 1812. And the Canadian people are censored. We are censored. Like, our government has made sure that, you know, we're not going to get any news. So unless you have a VPN or unless you can kind of, you know, sort of where to go and what to look for, you're not going to get any news about anything in the world. And we have alternative media, but most Canadians probably don't know about it. And the ones that we do have, from what I can tell, appear to me as controlled opposition. They're not even really alternative media. You know, like, they're not saying it as it is. Nobody is saying it as it is. And what is it? Well, my government is basically completely trapped right now between three superpowers that are vying for the Arctic, that are vying for us and for our resources. And we are stuck here now with all these groups surrounding us like wolves for our country. And they're basically not even working. My government isn't even working. They're not sitting, they're not working, they're on vacation, they're basically not dealing with anything right now. And all the comms that they send out seem to suggest to me that they are very pro-American, but everything they say in front of the cameras is they're very pro-European. So everything they do is strategically, in my view, cloaked. They're like in cloak and daggers. This is Ottawa right now, and this is what the Canadian people have to look at and try to understand what the hell is going on. And it's impossible to follow, really, to understand. And every single day we have new little psyops popping up with different people that are saying, well, you know, pretending to be there for the Canadian people when really nobody is actually really there for us right now. And I'm very, very annoyed that Tom Luongo is once again slapping around Canadians when he doesn't really understand anything about Canada at all. He lives in Florida, goat farmer. He just happens to be a very popular goat farmer with gold and guns in Florida. But he really doesn't know anything about Canada. And I'm worried that my government is not having currency swap privileges with the Fed, who, by the way, their reverse repo right now is at like $28 billion. So they appear to be holding very little cash, while all the banks are holding sovereign wealth paper. And I'm not really sure how that's going to unwind, considering they were really super high, like up in the $2 trillion mark, not that long ago, in cash. And I don't know how foreign investors are going to view my country when everything is so precarious with the Canadian dollar. And the Mark Carney government, who has promised all this we're going to fast track, and we're going to be so busy making trade available province to province, and we're going to build pipelines, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do that. And meanwhile, he's done nothing. He's done nothing. And right now, he's on vacation. So my government isn't really working. American talking heads, paid talking heads, are speaking extremely derogatory about Canadians, as if it's our fault. We're to blame now because our captured government has now been captured by them, basically, which is really what's happened. And now it's like they're setting the table for us to be the bad guys, and they're the good guys, and they're the long-suffering, and we're not long-suffering. And meanwhile, we've been a captured middle power for at least 200 years. So that's what I wanted to get off my chest tonight. I'm now the government is talking about how we shouldn't have our old age security, or we shouldn't have, and Canada Revenue Agency, people are complaining they're not answering the phone, and they're not working, and they're not posting payments. And so we have a lot of, it's not only ambiguous for the world stage dealing with Ottawa, but for the Canadian people, it's ambiguous dealing with them. So it's almost as if they're just not there. They're on X, they post on X, they show up on X, but they don't show up actually for us in our lives, having to deal with them. So, I mean, if you're a business and you have to post payments to them, or you have to report to them, and they're not working, well, how the hell are you supposed to run your business like that? And this summit in Alaska with between Putin and Trump, and everybody's saying, oh, it's so symbolic. It's so symbolic they had a summit. Yeah, it's very fucking symbolic, because Alaska was basically sold to America in 1867, and immediately, boom, right after that happened, the Crown confederated Canada the same year in reaction to America being sold Alaska. And because right from day one, Sir John A. Macdonald was worried about Canada being annexed by America. And it's been 200 years, basically, of Canada trying to stop America from annexing Canada. And so here we are today, where we're on the cusp of it now, which, by the way, I'm not opposed to it. Like, I'm not, because I'm tired of the king. I don't trust them. I don't trust the Europeans. I'm done with them. I would like to have a real government. I would like to have a government that doesn't need to fly around and their plane says Government of Canada, as if they're just like a stooge, like this weak, pathetic government that doesn't have any real authority, doesn't have any real power. Just some, oh, well, the King of Jordan is showing up tomorrow. We better get our checkbook out, write him a check for $100 million for climate change. Kind of a government that I've got, that will squeeze me for every penny I've got if I don't do what they demand right on time, and blah, 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 and their odious debt they pile on us. And believe me, it's not just the federal government. The provincial governments will pile on the odious debt. The minute you don't pay them what they expect, the minute that you're not right there, they will give you penalties and interest and pile it on you. Seize your vehicles, put liens on everything. But it's okay for them to just ship off hundreds and hundreds, probably trillions of dollars offshore. Our Canada pension plan invested in Mumbai, that shithole, Mumbai. for affordable housing in Mumbai, for God's sakes. $11 billion for gender advisory roles in Ukraine. I think it would do people like Tom Luongo a service to tell them that attacking the Canadian people is, it's not going to help. It's not going to change anything. It's not going to make anything any better. You know, the plan has already been laid out. The plan has been laid out since 9/11. Canadians, go and watch the movie H2O, and then the sequel, if you can, the prequel to it, Trojan Horse, and it lays it out. It lays it right out. Everything that was going to happen is in that movie, and Canada's role in it. Ottawa has flipped towards America 20 years ago. That's what the comms suggest. Even the more recent comms, like Dead Rats Up to the Ceiling Rafters at 24 Sussex. Changing the crown to snowflakes and maple leaves the day after the King's coronation. The British military being kicked out of their base in Wainwright, Alberta after 50 years of training there. They were kicked out. There's been so many signs from Ottawa that they are done as well. Justin Trudeau singing Bohemian Rhapsody the day before the Queen's funeral with some CA in the background, looking for the sum of Canada. Even though Ottawa appears to be extremely incompetent, woke, feckless, captured, all of these horrible signs that I see from them. Underneath all of that, I see that they have flipped a long time ago and they're going along with the plan. This is what I see. But I ask myself, why is my government so ineffective right now? Why are they behaving like this? Why are they doing this? And the only answer I can come up with is hidden threats against the Canadian people. That there are problems here that they have to manage, and for the Canadian people, that they can't tell us about it. That was the case with the Nova Scotia shooting. The Nova Scotia shooting happened on April the 19th, 2020. And what did the RCMP tell you? They told you that they had to find Gabriel Wortman. He killed 23 people. And he did it because he was mad at his girlfriend. That's what the RCMP told you about the Nova Scotia shooting. But I don't think that's what happened. I think they went to war with a foreign country over a server, which they found the server. Like, I did a reverse speech on Chris Leather, and that's what he said. Crash site sealed, found the server, clear as a bell in reverse speech. And you might think, well, reverse speech, that's not very, it actually is very, very accurate. I caught quite a few really interesting reverse speech on Canadian politicians. But there were other signs too that also, supported my theory that they actually went to war with a foreign country and they couldn't tell anybody. And the reverse speech sort of nailed why, because they were after a server and they found the server. I know them. Well, I don't know them. I mean, I knew Concan, whose brother, her brother, his wife and daughter were killed in the Nova Scotia shooting because she was a YouTuber like me, and we were friends on YouTube. But I was doing all kinds of videos in those days, and I was reverse speeching the government whenever I thought that they were saying something that they felt that was not, when I could tell, like I'm very intuitive, and I could tell when Justin or General Vance or anybody was speaking, even Harjit Sajan, you know, I caught a really incredible reverse speech when the pilots went down in that helicopter crash in the Sea of Onan off the coast of Greece. And basically, they both said that Harjit was responsible for the crash in reverse speech. And he was very shortly after that relieved of his position as the defense minister. And now I don't know whatever happened to that guy, but he was completely demoted and set aside. And I mean, you know, when I look at Ottawa, I just think, how many traitors do they have to deal with on a daily basis? How many horrible situations do they have to constantly have to fend off until this matter is wrapped up? It's a lot. I think they have to deal with a lot. People are complaining Canada Revenue Agency isn't working. What if they're having a liquidity problem? Like, I tried to figure out, like, why are they bringing in all these strangers in the country? Like, how does it serve them to do that? It might be to control inflation. I mean, if our currency has unique problems right now, then one of the things they would want to avoid is inflation or deflation, like a major deflationary death spiral. So by having all these foreign workers doing all of our service labor, and they're subsidizing it, then it gives a reason for money to go out, money to come in, money to go out. So it kind of settles up, if you know what I mean. It prevents inflation. But I'm sure there's other reasons as well. Like, I think Ottawa is just trying to do their very best for the most part. I really do. And I think it's a horrible situation that they're in right now. And I think the summit in Alaska was really probably Canada was on the table for sure, 100%. And I think people like Tom Luongo that are talking about Canadians what did he say? The War of 1812. We're fighting that war right now in Canada. Like, the way the guy is framing Canada right now is so negative and so divisive. And you know, and he builds himself out as this guy that just this Mr. Know-it-all about geopolitics. And yet the things that are actually very important about Canada, like all the foreign direct investment here from the EU and the UK, and the actual, you know, money that we've invested over there in the trillions of dollars, he doesn't ever go there. He'll go there about every other country, but not about us. So he actually avoids talking about the real meat of the matter and just puts out these inflationary talking points about Canadians. And all he's doing is stirring the pot. And people pay him to do it. But to be honest with you, nobody is actually talking about Canada. And nobody, it's almost as if they're all afraid to talk about the real situation involved here between Canada and the United States right now. And it's a very, very important matter. And it involves empire wounds for Europe and the UK. It really does. It's not Ukraine. It's not Israel. It's not Gaza. Those are proxy narratives, actually, for Canada and for Canadians. That's what they really are. But they won't go there. And that's when I have to ask myself, well, how many of these people that, you know, that are talking heads, these professional talking heads, how many of them are really just intelligence agency people that are just putting out the narrative the way that they want the narrative to sound? And they're crafting it in a certain way for a specific reason. And let's not let's not lift up anybody that actually might have a different narrative or sees things a different way about Harry and Meghan and all this other bullshit that's been going on. And like everything that's happening, the fact, all of the news out of Ottawa, Carney, he's on vacation right now. We don't really know where. He's lifted up the gay pride flag on his office instead of the Canadian flag. They're lifting up the whole land acknowledgements and giving superior title over, land that belongs to Canadians over Canadian people, saying their title is superior, which is all sort of reminiscent of previous civil wars that have happened in the past, where they lift up the title of other groups. And the fact that Canada has a problem with identity politics and, group identity politics, lifting up one bloodline over another bloodline. Like, we have a lot of very unique problems, and our problems kind of get talked about by Canadians, but the talking heads don't talk about the first of all, the comms. They don't talk about any of the comms. Nobody ever speculates about the fact that Mark Carney doesn't have an official residence to live at. There is a cottage available in the Rideau grounds called the Rideau Cottage, where Justin lived. He could go live there, but it's a dumpy old 200-year-old cottage that's really not suitable for a prime minister to live in. The official residence has been gutted right down to the studs, up to the ceiling rafters, because of dead rats. Okay. And meanwhile, the Governor General, the King's representative, lives in a castle right across the lawn. You could walk there. It's 20 feet, maybe 40 feet away from Rideau Cottage, in a palace, in a magnificent 10,000 or 20,000 square foot castle with gates and armed guards from the king. So if that doesn't tell you everything you need to know about the way Ottawa operates, the Governor General has more power than the Prime Minister. We don't even have a proper constitution. Our constitution is kind of de facto because Quebec never signed on to it. So it's not really, it was never ratified. The Queen never acknowledged that it was ever even really in effect. So we're probably under the Hudson Bay Charter, the Hudson Bay Company, which was just bought by somebody. I don't know who bought it, but that charter is probably the only real charter we have. But they'll tell you that we are operating under custom and consent under the charter from 1982. How many people are willing to consent to what Ottawa is doing right now? And how many, when have we ever actually really been properly consulted about anything? We weren't even consulted about Confederation in 1867. We're not being consulted about lifting up these group identity Aboriginal groups, this Aboriginal industry that's costing us $40 billion a year, that are lying about genocide, lying about mass graves, lying about everything, claiming superior title, claiming truth and reconciliation, that we're somehow the bad ones and they're the only rightful heirs to this land. Meanwhile, it's just a grab for the crown. for more jurisdiction. The king even laid it out in his throne speech. So we are not even being consulted. We are not, and even if we were consulted and we had votes, Western Canada would be the last ones to have a say in anything, because the way our system is set up, it's unfair to them. So we don't really have a system that is equitable to everybody. And then on top of that, my government is lifting up these cartels, okay? The dairy cartel, the media cartel, the liquor cartel, the food cartel, the forestry cartel. They're on and on and on. And they are supply managing absolutely everything in the country. And we are regulated to the point where it's almost impossible. Really, it's really, really hard to have a business now because of how much regulation that they are enforcing and pressing on us all the time. Insurance requirements, ridiculous. So we have we're in a very unique situation right now with our government, because our government is trapped. They're like a captured middle power who made a deal over here and made a deal over there, and they're trying to sort of manage their problems. And how they are managing, I have no idea. How they have managed to hold out as long as they have, I don't know. I really don't know. I'm not even sure that the Canadian military is on side with them. It doesn't look like it to me, to be honest. But whatever they are doing, they seem to be, like, under the circumstances, I feel like they're doing a pretty good job of trying to manage their problems. But I don't know how much longer the country will be able to continue waiting for them to fix these problems. And I think they really only have one solution to their problem, and that is wrapping up this confederation, this situation, and letting us get on with our lives with America, and to build our country and have our economic development and get along with our greatest trading. Like, let's just move along here, like, let's let go of the king, let's let go of Europe, and let's just go forward and manifest our destiny with America as we have always done. And let's get along with them, and let the Canadian people understand the problem that they're dealing with. But they're not ready for that yet. Ottawa is not ready for that yet. And until, they have an opportunity to actually be able to release that to the public, we're just going to be sort of in this in-between time, this in-between land, putting up with people like Tom Luongo, talking down about the Canadian people when, I mean, I do understand his point of view from some, a little bit, but at the same time, the Canadian people they really don't understand any of this kind of stuff. They really don't see the big picture of it. They've never really, I really don't know anybody that really actually gets it, what the real problem is here. When I talk to Canadians about it that are passionately pro Canada and pro being a republic, or being even, part of with the king, they don't understand the real crisis that's facing Ottawa, and they don't, and they get a blank stare. They just don't understand, and because they really don't have, I guess, the information, they don't care to know. Probably the biggest problem is that they just don't even know that they should have the question. Like, they're not there. And I think they can get there pretty quickly if given the opportunity to have the right information. But, Ottawa isn't ready to let that happen yet. And I don't know what kind of deals that Justin Trudeau made before he left, but I did get a very strong sense from him that he had negotiated something for Canadian people that was really, really good. But will it ever come to light? Will it ever come to pass? Will it ever be known? I mean, I don't know. But I thought I really did get a strong sense of that. And he did tell us some stuff on his way out the door. He told us that he was asked at his very last press conference, well, nothing like being, some reporter asked him, well, nothing like being boots on the ground in Ukraine, like nothing like being there. What was that like? And and he said, oh yeah, nothing like being boots on the ground in Ukraine. The people sitting in the cafes and they're having their coffees and they're going to the movies. They're going out for dinner with the sandbags piled up. Oh no, they're very strong people. Not exactly describing a war zone, right? So as if to say, there's no real war in Ukraine. I'm sure there's some kind of war going on in Ukraine. I mean, how would I ever know? It's not like we get media, actual independent journalist media that are every day showing us the war in Ukraine. Like, there's no media of that war whatsoever. Why would anybody even think there was a war going on there? Nobody's seeing anything. All these claims about all these dead people, there's no proof of any of it. Why should, going on to Israel now, why should Israel be such an important country? I mean, what have they got to offer? They're this little tiny sliver of sand on the ocean in the Middle East. Why should we have to care about them? Really? I mean, really, it's not like, I'm just saying that, what do they really produce, or what are their resources? What are they, like, why does it have to be a problem for my country? Like, you are set up by the British, by the Balfour Declaration. There you are. Yes, you do have quite a, formidable intelligence agency apparently, but not good enough to stop October 7th from happening, obviously. You're a British satellite operation by the looks of it, with the GCHQ and the MI6, and so I just feel, when I look at them, I feel like, well, how have they been a problem for Ottawa? Or, like, this is what I mean. Like, I think that Ottawa, under the circumstances, they probably have tried to do the best they could dealing with all these foreign countries. I mean, when they all wore the gray sweaters and Justin had his on backwards, well, they were basically telling you that they're surrounded by wolves all the time. And I'm not, and that's how I view them. I view them as really trapped bureaucrats who were, I guess government is a craft. I mean, they say that Ottawa has wizards and warlocks. There's and yeah, they probably do, and I'm sure that they have 1,000 different ways from here to Sunday to deal with different governments and how they do it. And they've been at it for 200 years, so I suppose they know how to manage things, but at the same time they have been completely plundered, and we have been plundered, and they're the ones who are meant to hold on and look after the sovereignty, and they have not looked after it. Like, they have failed in that. Or have they failed in it? And did they make another deal? Did they make a deal with the U.S. after 9/11? I think that's what they actually really did. So everything they do is strategic. It's ambiguous. It's layered in all kinds of deception. Everything Ottawa does. The whole country is like that now. Every province, they're all doing it. Even Nova Scotia, all the maritime provinces right now, they're all shut down. You can't go in the Crown Land because of fires, and fires are breaking out there, weird places, considering you're not in the forest. And, well, it's because that they have threats on them. I mean, arson is everywhere, right? Because, I'm going to end this now, this stream. Because Canada is a very wealthy country, and we're a very capable people. We have, we are very highly educated people, and we can develop things. We can build this country. We can do a lot, and we have done a lot. And and our resources are, extremely valuable to many other powers. And some people say, well, it's unclaimed land. They don't have they don't have a de jure government, and they never really claimed the land. That's what Cliff High says. And it's interesting when people say that we have unclaimed land, that we never took, we had the Statute of Westminster, and every province at that point could have just declared that we were countries, but we never did it. So they're saying we're unclaimed land. Well, when you look at what they're trying to do with the Indians, and these land acknowledgements and truth and reconciliation and residential school and the blah 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 blah, well, that's like Ottawa using them to claim the land. Well, we'll just use them to claim the land. The Canadian people are going to claim the land. We'll use them to claim the land. But this is all, once again, part of their strategic ambiguity to deal with all of these forces that are pressing on our country right now. And there has to be hidden threats in Canada. That's, there has to be, it's got to be. I mean, I can't see any other reason why they would be continuing on with this fog. We're under fog. We have fog everywhere. We can't, they're doing it on purpose. They're misleading people like him. Why would you need to throw up the gay flag on your office, Mark Carney, right now, of all times, of all the, the same day as the Trump summit in Alaska? This is when you choose to make a statement like that. Everything is very weird, and the talking heads are weird too. It's very hard to find somebody to listen to that is a little bit more objective and a little bit more of a truther. Like, there's not that many truthers available to hear what their thoughts are about things, because everything is so scripted. Everything is really scripted right now, and especially when it comes to Canada, more so than anywhere else in the world. Everything to do with Canada right now is a script. That's what I say. Anyway, I'm going to go now. I hope you heard everything okay. Bye for now.